Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. HRN is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Roberta's, home of Heritage Radio Network for 10 years. Learn more about Roberta's at robertaspizza.com.
Welcome to Spill and Dish, a new podcast from the Specialty Food Association. Founded in 1952, SFA is the leading trade association and source of information about the $175 billion specialty food industry. We champion the food producers, retailers, and other buyers who make up the specialty food world. If you want to know more about membership, visit specialtyfood.com. In each episode, we want to share the stories behind the products made and sold by our members, who are helping shape the future of food. You can listen and discover the inspiration, recipe, craft, culture, ingredients, and production methods that help answer the question, what makes specialty food special? I'm today's host, Megan Rooney, Program Development Manager at SFA. We're excited to bring you today's episode and so happy to be working with Heritage Radio Network, a nonprofit podcast network covering the world of food, drink, and agriculture, and expanding the way eaters think about food. Today's guest is Carla Krasner, co-founder and co-owner of Dufour Pastry Kitchens, a women-owned company founded in 1985. Dufour nationally supplies artisanal hors d'oeuvres and other savories, as well as ready-to-bake tart shells, all-butter puff pastry, and now a plant-based dough from its plant in the South Bronx. Welcome to Spill and Dish, Carla.
Well, thank you, Megan. I'm happy to be here.
So happy to have you today. For those that don't know, Carla, what does Dufour Pastry Kitchens produce?
Dufour Pastry Kitchens has 3 product lines. We make handcrafted hors d'oeuvres. We make raw, ready-to-bake tart shells that are also handmade, not made in a pie press, which is unique for our company. And we make puff pastry dough. We're best known for our all-butter puff pastry, and we've taken that now nationwide, and we've won many prizes at the Fancy Food Show. Thank you, Sophie, for helping promote the dough.
Delicious. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, how the idea for this company came about?
Sure. I had been working in classical concert music management with my business partner in Dufour, Judy Arnold. We had worked promoting the careers of classical musicians. We worked in places like Carnegie Hall, the Aspen Music Festival for concert promoters. And somewhere along the way, we got tired of promoting other people's careers, and we just decided that we wanted to do something ourselves that was creating a business and making a product of our own. And food was an idea we had. It wasn't something that we had thought about before. I was a good baker. I enjoyed that. And Judy was a really great cook. And she came with very strong sales skills from what we had been doing. And we just decided to experiment. We came up with an idea for a French-style pizza saladière on a pastry crust. And we found an ad in the Times for some space at a caterer's kitchen. And we just went in experimenting. And it was the caterer who saw what we were doing. And she asked us if we could make savory puff pastry hors d'oeuvres for her parties. And we said, well, sure. I ran home and opened my Julia Child cookbook. I had made puff pastry once before. And we ran back in and we went through cookbooks and magazines and came up with recipes to fill in this puff pastry dough. And that was really also our aha moment that there was a niche for this, because we had no idea that a caterer would ever do anything, present anything that they hadn't made from scratch. So it was an eye-opener to an industry that we never knew was there. And that's how we started. Our name, we just decided, this was going to be a gourmet, high-end product. And at the time, long ago, everything gourmet was French. So we said, let's come up with a French-sounding name. And I actually was a French major in college. And we played with some words. Du means from, and four, oven, Dufour. We just said, okay, here's a name where we had played with others. Here's a name that Americans will be able to pronounce. And I remember I've been listening with interest to some of your other podcasts, and I loved it when Paula Lambert talked about how she named her company, the Mozzarella Company, because when she thought about Italian names like Formaggio, and at the time, it was like, how would Americans even know what this was and know how to pronounce it? So conscious of that, we made sure it was a name that didn't matter if people knew what it meant or not, that it was easy enough to pronounce because you couldn't mispronounce it. In fact, you asked if you were pronouncing it correctly. Well, there are only two ways to pronounce it, Dufour or Dufour. So the name stuck. And to this day, people will still call asking for Madame Dufour, expecting that, it's a French founder.
That's great. And how many years have you been in the industry now?
Since we're incorporated, it's 38.
Wow, that's great. Where did your love of food come from? Did your parents encourage you to try new foods?
Oh, I wouldn't say that. No, I came from a family of, kind of meat and potatoes, and a father who was on the road making sales calls during the week. And so at home, on weekends, we'd have a nice, normal meal. And during the week, my mother couldn't be bothered to feed 4 children, elegantly. So we would have just the minimal. I remember being astonished once going to a friend's house and seeing sizzling steak-cut fries, delicious, coming off of their stove. I'd never heard of such a thing because I thought French fries came from the freezer, period.
So funny. That's great. What are some of the things you do differently if you could start over?
I think the main thing would be to recognize the point at which being entrepreneurs meant letting go of some of the things that maybe others could have done better. I think we all have a reputation for being very controlling, perfectionists. We were definitely perfectionists, and that I would not change. But bringing in higher level staff much earlier on. We've gained so much from the team and the input that we have from everybody now. We have a great team. And it took a long time to be able to let go.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest surprise about getting involved in the specialty food trade?
Well, the truth there is everything was a surprise because we knew nothing about it. We had done no research before. It was so long ago. It was before the industry is anything like what it is today. There was very little competition in what we were doing. The competition was very low end, savory hors d'oeuvres and pastries like potato puffs. So when customers discovered us, they were very happy to find us. It was not really a hard sell. I would also say how, and I've heard this echoed by others of your podcasters, this industry is it's really a welcoming one. And the help that we get along the way just by asking colleagues and asking questions, for asking for help is very forthcoming. Early on, when we ran into all sorts of problems, there was always a way out. In our early days, we had our first plant was in the meat market. We were really the only other food business that we knew about besides the meat packers who were still there at the time. When we outgrew our 900 square foot space, but we weren't yet in a position to move, we were able to, the neighbors, some of the meat guys would let us use space in their freezer. I remember walking through Schuster Meats with cases of frozen hors d'oeuvres past the meat carcasses just to go back into their freezer. They were everybody is very nice.
Yeah, that's great. There's a nice camaraderie in the industry. Carla, how has your brand evolved over the years?
Well, we started out entirely in food service. We were kind of word of mouth and built a reputation among chefs in the food trade. We were selling hotels, restaurants, caterers, private clubs. And then we realized, well, why not try putting some of this in retail in the local stores? We did that, but it was kind of a sideline. The retail business eventually grew, and it became mainly the puff pastry dough. Pre-pandemic, I would still say the majority of our business was in food service, and then when the pandemic hit, of course, food service was reduced to practically nothing, and with the trend for baking at home, the retail soared. So everybody was after the puff pastry dough, and we really got excited about making a bigger push into retail. And we, at that point, also started developing social media, which we hadn't really exploited before, and showing people at home what they could do with the dough. Our changes still are in line with the mission that we've had of really making products that leave room for creativity, kind of tools for the chef to be creative or the home baker to be creative, and give them kind of a blank canvas to start from there.
Speaking of creativity, where do you find inspiration for new flavors and products?
We try to follow the latest trends and cutting edge, what's happening out there in the specialty food world. We read the trades, the newsletters. We go to the trade shows, Fancy Food Show, Natural Food Show, Expo West, Plant-Based Expo, and we absorb a lot, and then we internalize it and find ways to make these things work for us along the lines of how we develop our products.
Great. What do you want people to know about Dufour that they might not already know?
People might not realize that we have not changed our recipe from the time we started. Our process is still the same. It's very artisanal. Our ingredients are the same. We have a formula that is really over 50% fat to flour, which is something that pastry chefs would understand. We don't compromise on anything. We still make a classic puff pastry dough. There's no secret to our recipe. And we are processing it the same way, too. It's almost like walking into a bakery where you see actual bench work. Every piece of dough is passed through the hands of one of our line workers who lovingly wraps it. I mean, it's a very tactile thing that we do here. And we love it that we still can make it the same way. People don't believe that we can produce enough to ship nationwide with our artisanal processes.
That's great. I love that idea of sticking with what works. So we're almost out of time, but before you go, we'd like for you to participate in our final segment, Take 5 questions for our guest. First, we're going to pause for a break.
This episode is brought to you by Roberta's, home of Heritage Radio Network for 10 years. Roberta's was founded in Bushwick in 2008 and has become one of the most iconic restaurants in the country. HRN made its home inside of Roberta's in 2009, and together they have become part of the DIY fabric of the neighborhood. Roberta's, the pizza restaurant, is open for lunch and dinner 7 days a week and serves much more than just the famous wood-fired pizzas. Their team dreams up new salads, pastas, and sandwiches on the regular. Roberta's Tiki Bar is alive and well in the back garden, serving up frozen drinks in the summer and hot toddies in the winter. Stop by the bakery and takeout spot next door for fresh breads, sticky buns, and pizzas to go. And of course, there's the 2 Michelin-starred Blanca tucked away in the garden for truly daring diners. But Roberta's also extends beyond Bushwick, with multiple locations in New York City and now in Los Angeles. You can also find their frozen pies in grocery stores around the country. The spirit of Roberta's, like Heritage Radio Network, is everywhere. Here's to many more years of pizza-powered radio. Learn more about Roberta's at robertaspizza.com.
Welcome back. I'm Megan Rooney of SFA, speaking with Carla Krasner of Dufour Pastry Kitchens. Let's jump into 5 questions for our final segment, Take 5. Question 1. What is your favorite thing about the specialty food industry?
I love the people in the industry. We're all a very passionate group about what we do, and it's so nice to exchange ideas and problem solving with everybody.
Question number 2. What is one thing that SFA has made easier for you as a specialty food business owner?
The Fancy Food Show was really a game changer for us early on. That's where we picked up our food service distributors, and we have now food service distributors nationwide. We also were recognized early on for the quality of our products. We are grateful for the Sophies that we've earned over the years, and that's also helped with our recognition.
Question 3. If you weren't running a business, what would you be doing?
Well, I love to do creative things, but the thing is, my job here is still creative enough that it's not like I have a need to run off and do all the art projects that I've got squirreled away at home. In fact, just in the last couple of years, my team and I have developed a new product which we're very pleased to launch. It's a plant-based pastry dough. We've had requests for things outside of our wheelhouse. I've never thought that we'd leave butter to do something like this, but we came up with a product that we really like, and so we're pleased about that. And the creativity still continues here for me.
Question 4. What's the one piece of advice you'd give a new food business?
I would tell people to make sure they can exploit every free resource that is possible for them. They should make sure they go to their local economic development organization. We have many here in New York City and the various boroughs. And there are a lot of nonprofits who will help businesses. There's for manufacturers, ITAC, Industrial Technology Assistance Corporation. I think they have branches in many cities. They're just even the for-profit accounting consulting firms. They have newsletters, they have webinars, they have people you can talk to. Even if you're not paying them now, they're looking to get your business in the future. There are just colleges and universities. There are all sorts of outreaches. Just don't stop phoning and don't stop asking.
Question 5. How do you define specialty food?
Premium, best of the best, and providing this for home consumers, chefs. We had a report actually from the Specialty Food Association at an event they came back from in California, where the top chef Thomas Keller was speaking to young chefs and telling them how wonderful the specialty food trade is for them and is going to help them. And he quoted, he said, "Yes, you go to culinary school to learn how to make everything, but there are shortcuts. For instance, you learn how to make puff pastry dough and how all that intricacy, and that's great. But once you're out in the workforce, there are resources for you, like for puff pastry, Dufour pastry kitchens, and so forth." So we're so pleased to fill a need in this industry.
And you guys are doing just that. Carla, thank you so much again for speaking with me today. And before we go, please tell everyone where they can find you or your products.
Oh, sure. Well, we're in lots of regional specialty markets, the Fresh Market, Harris Teeter, King's, Fresh Time, Shaw's, Jewel Osco, Texas Central Market, California Gelson's, East again, Hannaford, Mom's, West Coast, Albertsons, Northern California Safeway, and nationwide we're in Whole Foods.
You can find out more about the show at specialtyfood.com and heritageradionetwork.org. And remember to follow wherever you get your podcasts. Come back often to get to know the people who are shaping the future of food. And if you are in the food industry yourself, consider becoming a member of SFA by visiting our membership section on specialtyfood.com. Special thanks to Dufour Pastry Kitchens and to Heritage Radio Network, the world's pioneer food radio station. This is Spill and Dish, a Specialty Food Association podcast. Spill and Dish is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.